Hi guys, welcome to another session of Bible in a Year. And so far we're done Genesis and Exodus. Now, the book of Leviticus is going to take a very different drive. So we're going to do Leviticus. Hopefully we do it in 2 days, right? It is set of rules because now from Exodus we see how the Israelites through Moses built the tabernacle where God's presence dwelt with the people of Israel. However, because of how the Israelites were, they sinned, they cursed God and all of that. Now, God plans out several rules, several indices to ensure that the Israelites become holy. Now, God is a holy being. If God is holy, so it means that whoever comes into the tabernacle must be holy. However, because of the level of disdain or the level of sin the Israelites go through almost every time with God, because how they disobey God, God's put out set of rules. Those chapter 1 verse 7 speaks about rituals, different rituals of sacrifices, right? So in the first part of that particular, those chapters 1 to 7, it speaks of two channels of sacrifices, where one is to say thank you to God for all of the things that you have done for us, and then the other one is to say that I'm sorry to God for the things that I have done, right? For the things that we have done as a people or the things we have done as individuals. While chapter 8 to 10 from that sees how God ordained Aaron and his household to minister to him as a priest. Now, in that same chapter 10, we see how the children of Aaron, right, disobeyed God. That is, Nadab and Abihu disobeyed God, and unauthorized access went into the tabernacle, and then God struck them. It gives us an inclination that even as much as God's love surrounds us, when we disobey, he also has that justice system. So that speaks of the ordination of Aaron and the death of his sons. Now, chapter 11 to 15 talks about the purity, ritual purity of the Israelites, how they should not eat certain food, how when they have diseases, when they have so and so, several things that speaks to how mortal we are as human beings. And mortal speaks of death. It means that person can die. It means there's a mortality that is associated with humans. And everything that speaks of impure speaks of death. It means that when God wants us to come to him, he wants us to take off that impurity and then come into that purity in him, which gives us life. So that speaks of 11 to 15. And then 16 to 17 sees the days of atonement. Now, how I like how the Bible describes this. It says, okay, for one part, you have to do two things. Indeed, in this day of sacrifice, in this day of atonement, where the priest once in a year comes to do this. Now, there's one goat and there's another goat. So one goat you're slaughtering it and for the atonement of the sins of the Israelite, and then for the other goat, it serves as a scapegoat where that goat is released into the wild, into the desert or into the wilderness to be munched or to be killed by anything. But then it serves as that sacrifice also that the Israelites are supposed to do. That's the 16 to 17. It also gives us an indication that God tends to use a particular instrument to take away. So it's almost like a separation technique when the curse and the sins of the Israelites were laid on top of that scapegoat. Now that scapegoat is pushed away from the presence of the Israelite, just to give us an instruction of how God wants to separate the people of Israelite from every atrocity, from every sin that they've committed. Now also in 18 to 16, we see the laws or the rules that were set in place for the moral purity of the Israelites. Now remember, the first one was the ritual purity, how they should come before the tent. The other was the atonement of the sins. And now this is the moral purity, the sexual purity, the laws guiding loaning, the laws guiding people, the Sabbath, and all of that. So the moral purity of the Israelites from 21 to 22 speaks to the qualifications of the priest, who should be the priest, how the priest should be, how the priest should dress. It also speaks to an understanding that the priest is speaking to the people from God and also speaking to God from the people. So it's like a middleman thing. Then there's chapter 23 to 25 that speaks of the different feasts that the Israelites should partake in, the feast of the Sabbath, the feast of the trumpet, and so on. So these are some of the rules that the Israelites have to do, all in the name of trying to ensure that they are sinless. They come before the tabernacle, they come before God with all purity. So when they come to the tabernacle, they have to be pure. So all the things that was put in place is to ensure that they are pure before entering the tabernacle. And the funny thing about those particular set of rules, in terms of what to eat, the skin disease and all of that, they were just weeks. They say, oh, after 2 weeks, the rules were like, oh, after 2 weeks you're done. You're now free to come to the tabernacle. After this, you are done. So just very, very short weeks of atonement, or very short weeks of impurity, so that you can wash yourself, basically, practically. So we see how God's majestic plan works out well for Israelites. But however, we see in common chapters of the Bible how the Israelites always fall short, and then God always ensures that he redeems his people. I hope you've enjoyed this session so far. We're going to come back with Numbers and the following chapters. See you.